The spacewalkers will be removing existing nickel-hydrogen batteries and replacing them with new lithium-ion batteries that arrived on a Japanese cargo ship in May. The batteries store electricity for one pair of the station's solar arrays, and the swap will upgrade the station's power supply capability. The batteries will store power generated by the station's solar arrays to provide power to the microgravity laboratory when the station is not in sunlight as it circles Earth during orbital night.
Begins the 1 Bravo power channel upgrade. Chris, wearing the red stripe, egresses first. He sets up their tether anchors away from the airlock to enable them to go farther outboard. Then Bob, wearing the white stripe, grabs his foot restraint and follows outboard. Chris picks up his foot restraint on the CETA cart and heads to the external pallet, or EP. The external pallet is held by the robotic arm and houses the new batteries launched from Japan on HTV-9 in May. Chris sets up his tools and prepares his worksite. Bob translates to the S6 Integrated Electronics Assembly, or IEA, which will be his main worksite throughout the EVA. The IEA houses the batteries and hardware for the 1B solar arrays and power channel. Chris will join Bob and they work together to finish setup. First, battery from slot number 1 is retrieved. The crew needs to release torque with a ratchet, then use the pistol grip tool, or PGT, to complete the release of the bolts. The large battery is removed, and the crew work together to move it over to the EP for disposal. Chris ingresses the foot restraint, and the crew work together to install the battery in empty slot X. Then the arm maneuvers to place Chris in front of the first new battery in slot A. After placing scoops to create handholds, the crew will remove the battery and translate it back to the truss and install in empty slot number 1. Throughout the EVAs, Bob will need to move his foot restraint to reach each battery. Next, the battery in slot 2 is removed and translated over to the pallet. At the EP, Chris is in a foot restraint and places the battery on his BRT, or body restraint tether. Chris will release the adapter plate launched underneath the battery. Like with the batteries, he has to use the ratchet to release the high torque and then the PGT to fully release the bolt. Chris removes the adapter plate to hand to Bob. Bob translates back to the truss to install the adapter plate and open slot 2. At the same time, Chris is putting the old battery in the slot he had just emptied for disposal. Together on the IEA, they made a cable between the adapter plate and the new battery to complete the circuit. With one of the 3 battery pairs complete, they move to slot 3 to remove the next old battery. This battery will be stowed on the adapter plate in slot 2, where it is no longer needed to function. Bob and Chris return to the pallet to retrieve battery B. They repeat the steps to release the bolts, translate back to the truss, and together install an empty slot number 3. At this point, Bob and Chris begin cleanup on the first of the 2 1 Bravo battery channel EVAs. They also prepare for the next EVA, including moving foot restraints, securing tools and bags where they will be needed. Once the worksite is clean, Chris translates from the end of the S6 truss, pausing to reconfigure their safety tethers on the return to the airlock. Bob follows for ingress, completing Power Channel 1 Bravo EVA 1.
And once Bob Behnken's safer jetpack is installed on the back of his suit, he will move through that hatchway into the crew lock section where Chris Cassidy is now. And then depressurization will be done in a two-stage fashion. First, they'll take the crew lock down to 5 pounds per square inch of pressure. They'll pause to do a system check, and then they'll resume the depressurization all the way down to vacuum. Once it reaches vacuum, the two spacewalkers, Chris Cassidy and Bob Behnken, will conduct suit checks and communications checks with Mission Control Houston before they place their suits on internal battery power, which will mark the official start of today's spacewalk.
I think you're going to need 2 waist tethers, Bob, to get to this APFR right here.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Going in. Going in.
And you can see on the right side of your screen, Chris Cassidy is now coming outside the hatch.
Your wrist there.
Yeah, how's that happen?
Cassidy will be the first out of the hatch this morning, followed by Bob Behnken. Again, Cassidy as EV1 in the suit bearing the red stripes, and Behnken EV2 in the suit bearing no stripes. Once the crew gets outside to their respective work sites, we'll begin getting helmet camera views. Another way to distinguish the spacewalkers will be through those helmet camera numbers. Cassidy will have helmet camera number 18, and Behnken will have helmet camera number 20.
Did you catch if it was starboard or port? Or sorry, was it your left or right wrist mirror?
Here's my left wrist mirror. Straight station leader.
Copy, left wrist mirror, station nadir.
Maybe a foot per second.
Copy, 1 foot per second. Okay, Chris, and we didn't copy all your self-checks. If you can just get us those.
Green light is on. Which one are you missing? Jones, which step you missing?
And Chris, we didn't copy both your safer handles. Can you just confirm your safer handles are both down?
It's affirmative. The deploy handle is down, and the manual isolation valve. I'm at 3410. Is now?
Okay, firm 3410.
Down Bob Scurvy.
And Charles, I have to go to egress the airlock.
Okay, firm Bob, you have a go to egress. And you'll be bringing the crew lock bag with you, and that'll be going to the airlock with 11.
I have the crew lock bag with me. 3060 as Bob's anchor point closed and locked.
Copy that. Good.
Charles concurs. You're free to unlock your waist tether. Copy.
Okay, firm, we concur.
And Charles, the BRT is closed on the APFR, and it is tethered as well.
Copy, Bob. And Bob, if you can just check your reel is unlocked, you are go to release your waist tether from the airlock waist tether and close the hatch thermal cover.
Copy. Okay, the APFR is on my BRT.
Copy. And Chris, you'll be translating on that CETA cart to WIF 5 and bundling your ORU bag to the APFR and retrieving it.
Okay, in work.
And Chris, reminder for you, you're going to handrail 2004 for your green hook, and Bob will take a gauntlet check prior to crossing the Sarge.
004.
Now 30 minutes into today's spacewalk, recapping the milestones so far, Chris Cassidy and Bob Behnken placed their suits on internal battery power, marking the official start of today's spacewalk at 6:32 a.m. Central Time. Chris Cassidy's mirror on his left wrist became detached on his way out of the hatch, and there was no risk to the crew. The dimensions of that wrist mirror are 5 by 3 by 0.75 inches with a mass of 1/10 of a pound. Chris Cassidy and Bob Behnken are now headed to their respective work sites to begin prep activities.
My green hook is on 2076.
Copy, 2076. Bob, you can translate to whiff 30. You'll be
Whiff 30.
A-firm. And the clocking for the APFR is 12.
Thank you, 12.
Transitioning to the pallet.
On H1, I've installed it at 10 o'clock, so down and slightly to the left.
Copy, Bob. Let me know which battery you'd like to do next. Okay, I think at this point, with these two scoops and ingress aid, the way I've deployed it, we can work on the gap snare. Okay, copy that, Bob. So you're going from handrail 2054 on the radiator side. Hey, Jaws, I've got the gap spanner deployed to handrail 2054. It's the wire tie end of the gap spanner chain. Copy, Bob. The other end will be going to handrail 2012. Copy.
All right, Bob, finally heading your way.
Sounds good. And Chris, if you wanted to start with the gap spanner, the non-radiator side handrail is handrail 2010.
2010. Copy. Nice timing. That's exactly where I am.
Control of the battery?
You have control. Why don't we take the second to switch to your red?
Okay.
I have control of the battery.
You have control of the battery.
Look locked, Bob. Yeah.
It does look locked in the
Yeah, feel in.
Okay, Chris, we'll have you check your ingress aids tucked, tethers are clear, and end state, as Bob hands it off, you want H1 in your left hand, Chris, with you read it to H1.
Okay, setting up for the transfer. All right, Bob?
I'm ready.
I'm ready. See here. I'm ready. I have control.
Good. So remove my rest.
And while you do that,
3 cautions I'm going to read before handover. Crew must not simultaneously impart loads into the external pallet. When SSRMS brakes are off, free float crew member on EP must remain quiescent. Do not exceed 20 pounds forestern or use soft dock. Engage, disengage with pallet. How copy?
Copy all.
And Chris, you've got good access to your tools?
It's a little far over there to the left, but for right now, I'll just get this battery.
I have a red as well. I have control now.
You have control, you have the red, removing my red.
Okay, with that, Chris, you can egress the APFR and start heading back to the IEA.
All right, copy that.
I'm going to let you egress, and if you take the inboard route, we'll work together to rotate the battery just to make sure we keep the fins safe as we get past this APFR and get the fins pointed outboard.
Copy all.
Chris, we've lost your WDS. Before you take the battery back, could you check the button?
Sure thing. Green light.
And we have your WDS back. Thanks, Chris. Okay, Chris, just a reminder to check your ingress aids tucked, tethers are clear, and you're going to end up with your BRT ret to the battery tether point.
Okay. I'm going to take any workstation for just a second.
And Chris Cassidy is now set up in his foot restraint. He will then place the battery from slot number 2 on his BRT, or body restraint tether. Cassidy will then release the adapter plate underneath the battery and will remove the adapter plate and hand it over to Behnken. Behnken will then translate back to the truss to install the adapter plate in open slot number 2. At the same time, Cassidy is putting the old battery in the slot he had just emptied for disposal.
Chris, you want H1 stowed in your BRT.
Okay, copy.
And Chris, just go ahead and move a little bit further away from the pallet there. If you could, your ingress aid probably could be maybe a little stuck. Pull it back. Pull the battery back.
All right, battery's coming back.
Okay. Kind of just gently nudging the ORU back up at the top. Yeah. Okay. You're clear.
All right, John, so let me set back up with you and talking about the BRT. Review those steps, please.
Yeah, from Chris. So your BRT ret should be to the battery tether point, and you want H1 stowed in your BRT.
Okay. Working on the ret. The pallet towards me. With 30 centimeters to start.
Okay, towards you, 30 centimeters. We'll need good clearance with your APFR, and just a heads up on that grapple fixture. I think you're far enough to the right to be okay, but we'll bring it in towards you, 30.
In towards me, 30. Copy the grapple fixture. That's in sight, and no issue.
Okay, here comes motion in 30.
Copy that.
Understand, good motion?
It's hard for me to perceive it now. I see it. Good motion.
Copy.
Okay, Doug, you there? We're going to reverse that ETA and go away from me like 30 centimeters.
Okay, copy that. You want motion station forward or pallet away from you 30 centimeters. Stand by.
Okay, firm.
Here comes motion.
Copy. It's good motion.
Good motion.
Okay, Giles, I will ingress the APFR.
Okay, that maneuver is complete. Anything else?
Yeah, hold that. I might need it. I just want to assess the battery. We removed the adapter plate, so the distance is a little different.
Copy. Standing by. Brakes are still off, so no working on the pallet.
Copy that.
Chris, you get free to pass a couple words to Bob.
Yep, just getting a good body position to see that. Good EMI band and no FOD in the connectors. The two connectors.
Again, Cassidy is now working to install the old battery in the slot he just emptied for disposal, while Bob Behnken translates back to the truss to install the adapter plate in open slot number 2.
It's on.
Yeah.
Battery Bravo to slot 3, so I guess looking for a go to get in the HFR.
Okay, Chris, we're going to relocate some scoops first. So you are go to translate onto the EP, and you're going to be moving scoops from the battery in slot Alpha to the lithium-ion battery in slot Bravo.
Alpha to Bravo. It's released. You have control. Copy.
And with that, Chris, you can...
Now coming up on 3.5 hours into today's spacewalk. Recapping some of the milestones so far today, Chris Cassidy and Bob Behnken placed their suits on internal battery power, marking the official start of today's spacewalk at 6:32 a.m. Central Time. The first nickel hydrogen battery was released from slot number 1, and the crew worked together to move it over to the external pallet to install it in slot X for disposal. The crew then removed the new lithium-ion battery from slot A and translated it back to the truss, where they installed it in empty slot number 1. The new lithium-ion battery from slot A was installed in slot number 1, and the crew then worked to remove the battery in slot number 2 and translated it over to the external pallet, where Cassidy removed an adapter plate and handed it off to Behnken. Behnken translated to the truss to install the adapter plate in open slot 2, and Cassidy then installed the old battery in the slot that was emptied for disposal. Next, together on the integrated electronics assembly, Cassidy and Behnken placed a cable between the adapter plate and the new battery to complete the first of 3 circuits. Behnken and Cassidy then removed the aging battery from slot 3, which was then stowed on the adapter plate in slot 2, where it is no longer needed to function. Cassidy and Behnken just completed work on the external pallet to retrieve battery B, and they'll now translate back to the truss and together install it in empty slot number 3.
Copy, Hotel 12 set. With that, Bob will take a glove, hap, and gauntlet check.
My hap is the baseline. Change. The gauntlets are both up.
You're in a good position. My angle is kind of... Oh, I get it. I bumped your yaw.
I fixed it, thanks. You think are we going to be able to get it over the top of the APFR there?
I think so. If you have a decent spot to secure yourself, let's do that spot right there. You ready?
I am ready.
Okay. I'm in your way.
Okay. Okay. I have the battery.
You have the battery. I have the right. Feel in.
Stand.
Okay, Chris, if you'll check your ingress aids tucked and your tethers are clear, and then with the handoff, you're going to end up with your BRT red on the battery tether point, and then H2 is going to go in your BRT.
Okay, copy. I'm ready, Bob, and I have control.
Okay, I'll remove my red, and you're happy with your tool access? Are we just installing this battery, or are we doing something more, Jasmine?
You gotta take the adapter plate out.
Yep, exactly.
Bob, can you take control for just 1 second?
I'll take control back to standby. Okay, I have control.
You have control?
So we're in a different get ahead than was in our procedure. We're doing another adapter plate.
Yeah, Ephraim, you're going to do the full swap. So, Bob, you'll end up with the adapter plate on your BRT, taking it back over to the IAA and installing it in slot 4, while Chris installs the battery that's going on his BRT into slot Bravo.
Okay, BRT red is in place. T on H2.
Copy, Chris. You can move that battery out of the way, and we'll work on removing the adapter plate.
Okay, tightening up the knuckles. Okay.
Okay, Chris, you're gonna ret to the adapter plate heater mat tether point. That's the one towards your head.
I believe I'm soft docked.
Okay, copy. With that, you can grab the PGT with the 6-inch.
How's that translation, Bob?
That's going a little bit slow. I just want to not move the adapter plate into anything, so.
Copy.
And Chris, settings are alpha 7, clockwise 2.
Alpha 7, clockwise 2. That's set.
You'll be going to H2.
PGT is inserted.
Copy.
Okay.
Confirm.
H2.
Tape lines flush, looking for 16 to 17 turns.
16, 17 turns. Immediate torque out. At 9.1 foot-pounds. Now it's moving. Okay.
Copy.
4 for 19.
Bob, you'll make sure the gap spanner is clear and that you can reach the PGT and hex driver, and then you can ingress the APFR.
I'll do that.
We're going to have Chris move some scoops from the battery in slot 4 to the battery.
2 rets in the series and adjustable on the PGT.
Copy, Bob. Sounds good. And whenever you're ready, we can take an inventory of the crew lock bag if Chris is good with his forward steps.
Yep, I have the camera on my possession. I'm taking close-out photos now. And I think when I'm done with the photos, I head towards my bag.
Yep, A-firm, you'll head back, stow that camera as well as the GoPro into the ORU bag, and then we'll take your inventory once you're ready as well.
Okay, copy all.
Okay, I have a ret series connected to the ratchet wrench with a wobble socket and a palm bar in the crew lock bag.
Copy.
Ret with my trash bag, comm check.
Okay, copy, ret to your trash bag.
An extra adjustable.
Copy.
A ret and a ret with a pit pin on standby for nothing on them.
Copy.
Ret in series PGT number 8, which is in the off position. It does have a PGT battery and it has a 9-inch hex head at the end of it.
Copy, and does that have an adjustable equipment tether on it?
It does, yep. Thank you.
Copy.
And so I'm going to have to add another tether to this bag. kind of can just spin.
Okay, Bob, so you're going to take one of the adjustables off your wrist?
Correct.
Copy.
UV1 on the seat is hurt.
Okay, Chris, you'll be putting in a rich man fair lead at handrail 3409.
Three 409. That's in the anchor hooks.
Sorry, Chris, I thought I see you called the CETA cart, not the CETA spur. That's at the top of the CETA spur.
Copy that.
And Bob, reminder for you to hit the brake releases on the inboard brake release of each of the CETA carts.
Copy that.
There's an unhook on 3413. I'm too high, right? I need to go down.
Stay firm, Chris. Yeah, it's the top handrail of the CETA spur, 3409.
Sorry about that.
And Bob, as you get over to S0, you'll be putting in a rich man fair lead at 3410. The adjustable should already be there for it.
Good job. You'll need to release some of the, one of these, the Velcro needs to come on.
And moving through the hatch now is Bob Behnken, again wearing the suit bearing no stripes. Recapping some milestones from today, Chris Cassidy and Bob Behnken were assisted in the Quest airlock this morning by NASA astronaut Doug Hurley and Russian cosmonaut Ivan Wagner, who helped the spacewalkers get suited up and run through various checks before stepping out into the vacuum of space. Doug Hurley closed the hatch at 5:46 a.m. Central Time this morning to begin depressurization. After depressurization, Chris Cassidy and Bob Behnken's suits were placed on internal battery power, officially marking the start of today's spacewalk at 6:32 a.m. Central Time. Chris Cassidy's mirror on his left wrist became detached on his way out of the hatch, and there was no risk to the crew or the spacewalk. Cassidy was still able to use the mirror on his right wrist for the duration of the spacewalk today with no issues. Following the official start of the spacewalk, Cassidy and Behnken translated to the work site on the station's starboard 6 truss to begin the work to finish power upgrades on the International Space Station. Running ahead of their timeline today, Cassidy and Behnken were also able to tackle the first and second task planned for next Wednesday's second spacewalk to replace batteries for the S6 truss's 1B channel. Having completed all of the planned tasks for the first spacewalk involving the removal of 3 aging nickel-hydrogen batteries from the truss's integrated electronics assembly and installing 2 new lithium-ion batteries in the truss, the spacewalkers had some time to remove a 4th nickel-hydrogen battery planned for next Wednesday's spacewalk and move an adapter plate into the truss to await the installation of another new lithium-ion battery next Wednesday.
Yeah, so Safer 18, the one that the Bub had, so we heard a report that the right handle was partly out and pushed back in. Can you just check that the door is fully closed and basically the status of the right side of Safer 18?
Okay, we'll take a look.